Just 2 minutes and 45 seconds. We're going to start now, everybody. And by that, I mean, let's count us in. We're going live in 5, 4, 3. That's the wrong button. I'm going to go back to fade to black in 5, 4, 3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for October 11th, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, what is going on with Splinter Cell? And Nintendo is asking players to keep a secret. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host, the Game Mess Mornings. It's Dave Klein, everybody. Dave, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Been playing a lot of games. Too many games.
Yeah.
That's never bad.
Yeah, what's been keeping you most busy recently?
Right now, I'm about done with Echoes of Wisdom. Before that, I finished Astrobot. I was playing Plucky Squire. And I think I have the same sentiment as you about Plucky Squire, though.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of settled in there, where it's like, yeah, it'll be interesting, but maybe not super fun to play.
I think, maybe like a 7-year-old, perfect game.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I think it actually is a good kids game, yeah.
Yeah, perfect, great kids game, but that not too engaging for us.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm super excited because Metaphor comes out today, and hopefully it gets delivered to me today. So, and I played first Berserker Kazan. I played the beta for that.
You did? Okay, how was that? It
was Sekiro. It's Sekiro, but
that's what I want.
Less refined Sekiro. So it's good. It's like it's more punishing. It was pretty brutal difficulty wise, especially like the bosses. Every boss is just brutal, but hey, if you like that type of reward structure, it is there for you.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I had fun.
I very much think I could be in the mood for that, especially after a beta where they probably tune things down maybe a little bit and kind of get it in the right place for a wide release. Do you think there's a chance of that?
I don't know, man. I mean, tuned down, I don't know. I mean, yeah. I feel like some things were pretty sloppy in terms of I feel like they didn't feel refined, and it was a very early beta, so I hope that they fix those. Just enemy attacks didn't feel quite snappy enough, especially when you're trying to read and react to things. But the bosses were super brutally difficult. I'm a Souls guy. That's what I'm known for. So, yep. I mean, I don't know. I doubt they tuned it down for the beta. So,
well, I mean, maybe after the response from the beta, I'm hoping they might tune it down for the final release. Do you think there's a chance of that?
I don't know. I guess we'll see. Because, yeah. I mean, I guess it's like Shadow of the Erdtree, where that came out and everyone was like, the final boss is way too insanely difficult, and they tuned it down. So, yeah, right. I guess we'll see.
We will see. Either way, I might be in the mood for something brutally difficult right now. That sounds good. I'm still working through Echoes of Wisdom myself, trying to get through that. It's hard. A lot of stuff taking up my time, but I'm really enjoying that game quite a bit. Where'd you fall down, or where'd you fall on it in the end, in terms of what you thought of it?
I like it. It's very fun. It actually, I think my biggest pro about it is it hooked me right away. A lot of games take me a couple hours to get into, but I think I fall in the line of feeling like there's too many things. There's too many echoes, just because I always know exactly what I need to do when I get to a puzzle. And it's just takes me a minute to get to the thing that I need to use. Mm-hmm. And that's every single thing in the game constantly. So I like it. It's just not one of my top Zelda games. So it's probably one of my top 10 games of the year still, but it's not up there as top 5. I don't know. It's a good game. It's fun.
I can see that.
What do you think?
I can see that. Yeah, I think that's probably where I'm going to end up as well, where it's I think that the brunt of the game is really good. Just like the a thesis statement of, hey, here is a bunch of stuff, and here's a world where you can go around and do whatever you want with that stuff, including jumping over these trees and taking these shortcuts in the open world, and you could do your exploration at your own pace if you really want to, and then we'll guide you back into the story when you're ready for it. I think all that stuff works really well. And then the specifics of the dungeons and the puzzles, I think it leaves a little bit to be desired. Just a little bit more refinement, I think would have gone a long way there. It's just a really good game that is kind of waiting for that extra polish to be a great game, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think part of it for me too is you kind of just find your 5 things that work for you, and there's no reason to stray from it. It's like
Yeah.
I found Crawly Spider Boy who goes up things, and I attach to it, and it's like, okay, I can go up everywhere I need to. There's no reason to use anything else.
Yep.
There's never anything better than the bed for going long distances that I've gotten.
Yep.
So it's like, I mean, I guess you can shoot something and attach to it, but it's just like you find your things, and it's like, okay, well, why change what I'm doing?
Yeah, and then the way I play games is very much like I should be willing to be creative here. So, but then that gets to situations where it's like, oh, I'm trying to get too cute, and this idea is not going to actually work. I'll just revert to the thing that I know will work. But yeah, I don't know. Once I started doing like in that first stream we did here, I started hitting start to bring up the menu so I could see everything. That made it a little bit more convenient to like get through and try some different things. But yeah, people they're saying there's too many echoes. I think it's hard to argue with that. It's a little bit difficult to sort of keep all that in mind. And then the answer to that for everybody is, well, I'm just going to use the things I know work, and I think that's completely fair.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of what do you like. And I was talking a bit to a fellow GameSpot employee, Max Blumenthal, who's like a Zelda guy, especially Breath of the Wild guy. He loves playing with those types of mechanics and physics engines and stuff like that. And I think for him, that's great, having all those echoes. For me, I prefer less mechanics, but more thoughtfulness around those mechanics.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, you get to a puzzle in the game, it's like there's 10 different ways to do it. That's cool, but then it's just an easy puzzle to solve because I'm like, okay, move on, got it.
Yeah, so, yeah. And I think half of that is the puzzles themselves, though. They could be more interesting. They could be more challenging. They could be... I don't know. A lot of them just felt like very vanilla, like very obvious puzzles that barely seem to be engaging with the mechanics themselves. All right. Let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings, or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with the most important news story of the day. Happy birthday, Janet Choa! Happy birthday, it's the birthday boy! Yay, 33 years old, he says. Oh, I think it's 33 years young, personally, if I were to say.
When I saw that, I was like, is he really only 33?
Yeah.
Makes me feel so old.
Yeah,
him and Bailey, I'm like, you kids.
These children out
kids.
there. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, happy birthday, Jan. We'll find ways to sing you happy birthday multiple times on shows today, I'm sure. But
Use the Power Rangers theme to sing it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to like bring the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers theme song into my head, and immediately Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles popped in there. So that's where my brain is at. All right, let's keep going here. Splinter Cell Remake is still in development and will be released in 2026, according to a rumor. This is from Jonas Mackey at Game Reactor. It has been 3 years since Ubisoft announced Splinter Cell Remake, but the total silence surrounding the project and Ubisoft's many recent difficulties have led some to worry that it may have been canceled. But according to Insider Gaming, this is nothing to be concerned about. They write that their sources say that the work on the contrary is rolling along nicely, and that the project goes under the working name North and is currently still a going concern. It is apparently being developed with Massive Entertainment's game engine Snowdrop, which has been used in more and more of their games recently, where previous games in the series were created with Unreal Engine. That was like Unreal Engine 2, though. That was like very early stuff. Insider Gaming also writes that they have received information that Splinter Cell Remake will be released in 2026. And given that the development was freshly started in 2021, this would mean a development time of 5 years, which is not that exceptional anymore. Yeah, all that sounds about right. I guess it's good to get a sign of life that Splinter Cell's still coming along. We were talking before the show, Dave, that this is a game that is ripe for a remake. It seems like it would be a good use of their time. There is some conversation right now, especially when people are looking over at PlayStation, be like, man, you're doing a lot of remakes. But I think there's some remakes that people still very much want, and I think this one falls into that category of please actually make this happen, even if it's doesn't end up being a fresh start for Splinter Cell, where now we get a bunch of new Splinter Cell games because this one did so well. people just want any Splinter Cell at all. And I personally think if we can get some real time ray traced lighting into the original Splinter Cell game, that would be a match made in heaven. So I think there's a lot of fun possibilities here. What do you think?
I disagree. I think Horizon is the remake people really want.
You know what? Yeah, I didn't want to say it. I'm glad you did. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's what we're really all been clamoring for, and I'm glad we're getting it. Look, yeah, I think as you said, we were talking about it before the show, and Splinter Cell sounds like the perfect game for an update. I mean, last time I played the game was probably 20 plus years ago, but I think that's a sign that it, especially for a stealth game, there's a lot you can do with a stealth style game to up the ante, make it more intense, especially as you said with ray traced lighting. I mean, plus is like cool 3 green mask, right? Like that's perfect for it. So I think it'd be great. And I don't know why people were so worried after 3 years of not hearing anything in this day and age. It's like, look at Final Fantasy 15 took 10 years to make.
Yep.
Perfect Dark disappeared off the face of the earth for a while, and now it's back. I mean, games take a long time to make. So it's, yeah.
Yeah. And it's, when I think about like, okay, Ubisoft and like what like would make sense for them, I get why it's like, okay, at the first blush, you think Splinter Cell doesn't fit with a lot of stuff they've been doing. They want to have an Assassin's Creed game that they can release every year, or maybe even more frequently than that. They have so many Assassin's Creed franchises, franchise products in the works. And then, can Splinter Cell match that? Maybe not. But I mean, when we start looking around at like what games are popping off right now, obviously still there are some multiplayer games that do well, but that also seems like a riskier proposition than ever. And then it's very difficult to make a new franchise that can match Assassin's Creed's ability to sell. So people do want single player games, and I think if they put enough effort into Splinter Cell, it could be one of these ones that really does very well for them. So I think them sticking with it and giving it the like full 5-year development cycle could end up being very promising. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, it's also, I feel like Ubisoft hasn't been doing as well lately, right?
That's right.
So
Their recent, the very rocky road for them these past few months. Yes.
So, I mean, this is probably just anything that's different for them is a good idea. And this is, as you said, it's super safe bet. It's a game that has a long running franchise. People like it. Remakes are doing well right now. I mean, yeah, it's the perfect idea. I don't know why they would drop it.
Yep.
So
it's
good timing. Great idea. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the sign is okay, or the sign of life is here. It's still in development. They have a code name for it, and they even have a release date in mind of 2026. Does that 2026 release year window give you more confidence, or does that feel like, well, it's so easy to say at the end of 2024 that this game might come out in 2026, but that also might make it feel like wiggly, like, oh yeah, maybe it could come out, but if we have to delay it again or cancel it, we still have plenty of time to do that. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know why a remake would take 5 years in the first place, honestly.
It is
because it's
a
not
little
like
weird.
You're doing totally new design. So to me, 2026 seems pretty realistic, but at the same time, like you said, I mean, they could always just push it again, but I don't see why not.
Yeah, I think it's nice that it has a date. I don't necessarily like take this as gospel though, and like there could be a million things that go wrong, and we could hear late next year. It's like, oh no, with all that Splinter Cell stuff. Like sure they were thinking it at the time, but stuff's gone wrong. The people that were working on it got conscripted to work on some Assassin's Creed project, and so that got put off to the side. It's on a shelf. It's not completely canceled. Like I could just hear that in my head already. But again,
it could also be like a Resident Evil 4 style remake where it's like just totally ground up.
It does feel like if it's taken 5 years, it must be that, right? Like what other explanation is there? Now, I mean, we also do hear like these companies frequently talk about, hey, why are you remaking Last of Us Part 1 instead of Uncharted? Wouldn't it make more sense to do Uncharted? Like, well, Uncharted's just a little bit older, and being a little bit older means it's a lot more work to actually remake that. Meanwhile, Last of Us Part 1, we just got to do this. We replace these models, make a few other changes, and it cost us a lot less money to remake that. So
yeah, to be fair, like you hear stories all the time about companies losing the source code which is crazy to me. But
Yeah.
like that's the case with Silent Hill, right? Like that happened with Silent Hill, if I remember correctly, which is why that original remake was so bad that people hated so much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe that's the case with Splinter Cell. Who knows?
Yep. And if they are going all out with this one, it is right in line with what everyone always says. All these developers always say it's like a game from that generation, from that era. If we are going to remake it, it really will require a lot of effort, a lot of resources, and so 5 years. I hope that when we do finally see it, it really lives up to it, because I'm in the mood for Splinter Cell. I always really liked that first game. I played a handful of the other games, but I really liked that first one. Him doing the splits in the hallway while someone walked underneath and you shoot out a light, and then you just take the guy out. That's a good time. Want to do more of that. So looking forward to it. And if they can make it feel like a modern game, again, I think this is one that can do excellent for them. But we have to wait and see. Next one here. This has been going around this past week, but since we're on this topic of remakes and the kinds of remakes that people want, I figured I'd bring this one up. God of War Remastered Collection, it has apparently maybe leaked. It makes a lot of sense. The first of all, the franchise is going to be 20 years old here pretty soon. Second, if you looked at the some of the data that leaked because of the Insomniac hack, there was information about like how many games, or like which games were the most played on the cloud streaming service that they have. And God of War games, the original God of War games, were always among the most played. So they know that there's a huge popularity there even before the 2018 ones, which of course there is, but seems like the demand might be even higher than we realized. And so them like being, okay, let's take those games, remaster them, put them all in maybe one collection, maybe 2 volume collections, something like that, would make a lot of sense. And I think people would be very welcoming of this kind of remaster, right? Because we're talking 20 years. We're not talking, 7 years ago, right?
Absolutely. I've still never played God of War 1 through 3.
Those are some really good games. Those are really good games.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the audience, and I agree. As soon as it's like the 20-year mark, when you get before the PS3 era, I think it's like those are the games that people actually want remakes of.
Yeah.
So, great. I don't know what else to say. Great. I'm glad if the leak is true. That's great.
Exactly. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, it makes sense. It feels like an easy one. They do need more stuff. They need more content out. And also, there's a lot of love for God of War right now because of 2018 and Ragnarok. Why not be like, oh, hey, for those of you that didn't play that, here's this. And then for those of you who remember these things fondly, here's a chance to play them again. Apparently, it would be, again, in some form, maybe in one collection, but maybe 2, maybe each game gets released individually. But it would be like the entire Greek saga, which would be 1, 2, 3, the 2 PSP games, and then Ascension. Yeah. So 6 games.
It makes me wonder what people who've only played modern God of War will think of the original games.
They'll probably think, wow, this one's fun. I think God of War's fun. but boy, the original God of War games are just fun. Like, that's all they're going for. And yeah.
They're also a different style of action gameplay.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
There's still like that Dante's Inferno style of action gameplay.
Yeah.
So, like arcadey style. So, which is great. I mean, it's a lot of fun, but it's different. So that's where I'm curious to see what a new audience will think.
I bet my money would be put on a new audience going back to those without much expectation. Would be like, oh, this is way funner and way better than I thought it would be, because I thought it'd be kind of old. And I go and play this, and yeah, it's different, and it is just kind of a straight up action game. But it's actually incredibly cinematic. And then in between those cinematic moments, which of course the series was famous for, the combo system is just super solid. And like, they had Capcom Street Fighter developers come in and help them get the combo system right from the get-go in God of War 1. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they just kind of crushed it originally.
Was it the same guy who made Dante's Inferno? Did he help out with it? Because he basically he was the one who made that system in the first place.
I don't know if it's like the, Dante's Inferno guy, or, you said Dante's Inferno?
Sorry, not Dante's
Inferno. Yeah.
Devil May Cry.
Devil May Cry. Yeah.
Like, I don't know why I kept saying that.
Yeah,
Devil May Cry.
Well, because Dante's
Inferno was another action game that came out like that, but
yeah,
Devil May Cry
definitely
was the one I kept on meaning to say.
Right. Dante's the name of the character from Devil May Cry. That's why it's easy to mix that up. I think that it wasn't like the Devil May Cry guy, but there was Devil May Cry guys that might have helped out with that. And then it was definitely like some people that had worked on Street Fighter 2's combo system like over time coming in and helping out.
Well, I don't know if you remember this. There's also the Dante's Inferno game.
Oh yeah, totally.
Which was also which was the same style too. So that's probably what was in my brain.
Oh, all right, for sure. Yeah, that famously had EA pay a bunch of weird marketing firms to come out and protest gaming events and be like, "Oh, you're all going to hell," and it was actually just like a prank protest so they can market their game, and it was really dumb. They also sent checks to game reviewers and be like, "Oh, are you going to give in to greed, one of the 7 deadly sins?" And it's like, okay. And then some people are like, "I'm going to burn this check. How dare you?" And it's like, now you're just giving them free marketing. Okay, Dante's Inferno. That's the best character action game of all time, everybody. I don't care what you say. All right, let's keep moving here. Xbox games will soon be sold in a new place. From Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. That, for some reason, this headline makes it sound like it's in the back of a Volkswagen is where they're going to be sold, but no. In response to a recent court ruling, Microsoft has announced that Xbox fans will soon be able to purchase and play Xbox games directly from the Xbox app on Android. This is something they announced recently, like yesterday, because a court, it says right here, a judge ruled in the Epic versus Google case this week that Google will be forced to allow rival third-party app stores to exist within Google Play. This effort, spearheaded by Epic's Tim Sweeney, means Microsoft will sell Xbox games directly to consumers beginning November 1st. This was a little bit confusing. So Sarah Bond, I think, came out and said, "Hey, we're going to start doing this." And people are like, "Wait, is this the mobile app store you were talking about where you're going to start selling like Call of Duty Mobile and Clash of Clans and whatever else you have on the Microsoft store on Google Play?" And that's not what they're talking about here, at least not yet. What they're talking about is on the Xbox app on Google Play, they will now sell you Xbox games that you can play on your Xbox or stream through xCloud on mobile if you want to do it that way. So it's really just like, hey, we no longer would have to pay the 30% cut to sell you a game on mobile that you're going to play on your Xbox. So now we feel good about doing that. It's kind of a small thing, but mostly what I want to talk about here, Dave Klein, is Microsoft was ready to go with this, right? They're like, this is like right there. The week it was announced by the court that they could do this, they're like, hey, in November, we're going to have this ready to go. Get ready. This feels like this legal strategy, this regulation strategy is like front and center of Microsoft's minds over there of like, this is our future. We want to have this stuff everywhere. Do you get that sense when you see this sort of situation happen?
I mean, it's definitely what they want.
Yeah.
I don't know how much it's going to help them, but
right. Who knows?
I mean, when you're saying like, honestly, I was kind of confused as you're telling me the story. Like they're trying to have you buy games for their Xbox on the Xbox app on a phone.
Right.
And
and then you could just install it remotely, I guess. Or again, you could maybe use xCloud to stream it. I still don't know how it works to stream games you own on xCloud, and who's going to use xCloud? It's not a very good service.
Yeah, I'm just like, what? It just sounds confusing. I don't know. It doesn't like make me think like, oh, this is how I'm going to buy the games. It's just easy enough to just go to the storefront of the Xbox to buy an Xbox game. So I don't know.
Have you ever purchased a digital video game through a website or an app before? Because I've maybe done it. Well, I've done it a handful of times for the eShop, actually, on the Nintendo eShop, just kind of navigating the websites a little bit faster. So I've done that a couple times. Have you?
No. If I want a game for my Switch, I go to the Switch. If I want a game for PS5, I go to my PS5. If I buy anything on Amazon or somewhere else that's not the digital storefront of the system itself, I'm buying a physical copy. So yeah, I never buy digital copies that way. I mean, that's just me. I'm obviously I'm not indicative of everybody.
Yeah, but I also just think like I buy all digital, and I like only occasionally do it through like these third party things. I mean, but I don't think Microsoft's out there saying like this is the future of buying games. I think it's just like one more way of doing it, and we're going to take advantage of this. I don't know, Sean.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I just don't see how it's going to help them that much. It's like if someone wants to buy something. Yeah, if someone wants to buy something, they're not going to be like, oh, thank God, I can finally do it on the Xbox app on my phone. I don't know. Well, I just don't think that's the case.
This is not going to help them. What might help them, and again, I don't think there's any guarantee that any of this helps them, but what might help them is them thinking that this is step one, and I bring this up every time for listeners, but yeah, this is step one, and eventually, what's the difference between Google Play and the PlayStation Store? Why can the Xbox Store on Android be a place where you could buy Xbox games, but not the PlayStation Store? And then at that point, it's like, we're releasing our games on Xbox or on PlayStation. You could buy them here and play them on PlayStation, and we get all the money. And no longer do we have to give 30% to Sony to do that. I know that sounds crazy. I think it is probably pretty crazy now, but I continue to think that Microsoft assumes that is something that they can kind of finagle the world into and regulators into agreeing that that's the right way of doing things. And at that point, it's like, okay, they're a third party now, but they get 100% of the money for selling Call of Duty on PlayStation. That's a very different world than what we have right now.
Yeah, I think you talk about it or someone else, and that's definitely, to me, the most interesting aspect of this for sure. And I think that's where you were getting at the beginning. I don't know what things are going to look like in the future if that happens, because it's also part of the whole reason these consoles work. In a way, that's how they make their money, right?
Correct.
Is by taking that percentage. So when you take that away from them, it kind of destroys their business model. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens. It might with this new ruling. It kind of puts it in more of a gray space than it used to be. I also wonder what's going to do to indie games, because for me, and this is selfish because I'm working on one, but it's like, it makes me wonder, part of the thing that's nice about these systems is they're regulated in a way for putting those games out. So unlike Steam, where it's just like everything. But when you take that guardrail away, is it just going to open up the floodgates for just like, not that there aren't already a lot of indie games, but even more, like just this crazy amount of games that are just total crap, that have no work put into them at all. So.
Right. And I think clearly that would be a risk that this would run. But I think the argument that regulators seem interested in is that if there are multiple storefronts available in all of these pieces of hardware, that would increase competition. And then you, as someone who makes games, could shop your game around to the store that has the best terms and the best revenue share and has the most audience. And you would factor all those things in. And then that would force these different storefronts to be like, okay, sure, we can no longer charge 30% for every dollar you make. Instead, we are going to have to cut that so that we can keep up with the Joneses, because we can no longer just close off our platform. I don't know if that's better. I don't know if it is, but
I mean, I get that argument for sure.
Yeah.
And definitely, in general, I think more competition is always a good thing. It's just, I don't know if I've necessarily been against the gate system that these systems use. Like,
right.
I think it helps regulate some of the trash sometimes.
Sure.
It's like when Nintendo put their seal of quality thing for the NES back in the day because of what happened with Atari.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you can overdo it, of course. But it's an interesting like back and forth, as you were saying, because there is the market factor, the competitive factor where, I mean, again, as you're saying, if you're an indie developer or any developer, it's like you don't want to pay 30% just to put your game out on the market. That's a huge margin.
Yep.
For that you're just paying. That you can't pay your employees if you're a small team or things like that. So I don't know. It's interesting. So
yeah,
that will be the most interesting aspect of this ruling. Absolutely.
I think the well, as much as regulators love like to hear that, like, okay, we can get more competition in these places, and that we think that'll be more fair. It's like, I don't know. Look at examples where there is no barrier to that utopia that you're imagining, like the open platform or the PC, and Steam still gets away with charging 30% to most people, most developers. And anyone can install any store they want on a PC, and it's not really helping things all that much. So it's like, does the argument go so far as Steam on an open platform has to begin letting other stores into its store on an open platform? Maybe regulators go that far, and it could be that crazy. But I don't know. It feels like, for as much as like we understand the way all this stuff works, for as much as like we kind of want certain things to be a certain way, regulation could come in and take a wrecking ball to a lot of that and reshape the stuff in a way that's like very hard to imagine how it would actually work. And I think in the meantime, I get the sense Microsoft is waiting in the wings, trying to be like the one that can hop first and take advantage of it the most. And that's what buying all this content has really been about this entire time. But we'll see.
That'd be an interesting strategy. If
Yeah,
that's what they've been doing.
I think it's an interesting strategy. Is it the one? Is it the one that I want them to do? No, I want to make good games that I want to play. I think that would be the best strategy. But
that's the best strategy for all of us.
Yes, exactly. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back right after this, a lot more to talk about, including really powerful sales of Metaphor ReFantazio on day one, and what's up with Disco Elysium's developers right after this. All right, we're right back into it. Here we go. Metaphor ReFantazio sales pass 1 million mark after day one. This is from Jamie Tugayev at DualShockers. One day is all it takes for a legend to be born. Sega announced Metaphor ReFantazio broke the 1 million copies mark within the first day. To put this meteoric rise in perspective, Atlus's previous fastest seller was Persona 3 Reload, which took a week to hit similar numbers. Meanwhile, as of this morning, Steam charts show players at a peak past 52,000 and rising. That's 52,000 concurrent players all playing at the same time. This puts Metaphor ReFantazio as the 23rd most played game right now, sandwiched between Baldur's Gate 3 at around 50,000 and Team Fortress 2 at around 55 or 56,000. These numbers are far from complete. Metaphor ReFantazio is also available on PlayStation 4 and 5 and Xbox Series X and S. Unlike Valve, neither Sony nor Microsoft make their players or sales numbers public on demand. Yeah, that's hey, people seem to be into this game and they want it real bad. Being the fastest selling Atlus RPG, apparently, that's not necessarily what I was expecting. I thought it would take a little bit more of a slow burn of people be like, oh, this is as good or as desirable as the Persona games. I will show up for this in week 2. But nope, it seems like word of mouth has spread. Those reviews obviously helped, and people are jumping aboard right away, huh?
This is one of those things that makes me really excited. It's similar to From Software, where anytime From Software releases a new IP, it seems to do better and better. And it's like part of the marketing with Metaphor was, hey, this is the same team that made Persona 5. And that's what hooked me. And I'm glad to see a new IP, even if it's an old team, doing so well, because that's what I want ultimately. And I think that's the best for everybody is when new IPs can get made and these devs can get truly creative. So it's super exciting to see. And I'm one of those people, I'd almost never pre-order a game, but I wanted Metaphor right away. And unlike you, I'm a physical copy guy. So I ordered mine a few days ago just because I want to play it I hope it comes in today, and it looks like it's going to. So I was like, it's one of those teams I trust, like From Software. I trust it's going to be good. It seems like other people do, and it's exciting. It's great.
Yep. Yeah, it's and when you have a game that's in the 90s on Metacritic, that's going to help all that stuff sort of congeal together, where it's like, okay, we know the developer. This is a fantasy RPG that looks fun. Can I, should I really be getting as excited about this as I have been? Should I really be pre-ordering? And then you see those Metacritic scores come in, and it's like, okay, yeah, I feel good about this. Let's just roll. And then that also is going to make a bunch of people jump aboard and get on Steam as soon as they see it and stuff like that. So, yeah, very, very good for the developers over there, and them being able to prove it's like, no, we can move this beyond Persona. It does feel like, oh, this is the team that has kind of taken the torch of that entire JRPG genre, and this is where people are looking now, instead of even like Square Enix, where it's like at one point, Square Enix is going to have Final Fantasy, and then they put out a Chrono Trigger and everyone's going to pay attention. And it's like, we're a long way away from that in this moment. I think, that's not to say Square Enix can't also be having, can't have games that get a lot of people excited for the next one. But it's like, in this moment, it feels like they have somewhat abandoned those, the fundamentals there that made all that stuff work in the first place. And Atlus has fully embraced those fundamentals, like turn-based combat, and they're reaping the reward.
I feel like somewhere along the line, Square Enix kind of lost touch with maybe a stylistic thing that made those games click for so many people.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe they went too hard, and I don't know if it was the dark fantasy route. I remember there's that like Final Fantasy Zero game that came out. It was like a precursor game that just didn't I don't know, just look like I'm trying to be hard. We're trying to be hard, as opposed to a like true Final Fantasy game. But I don't know, I'm a big Rebirth fan. I thought that was just amazing. So this
Yep.
is definitely a year that JRPG fans are eating well. And yeah, Atlas is doing great. Metaphor is just, something I wonder, actually. I don't know if you have the data for this. We were talking about the Metacritic scores and how amazing they are. I wonder how much sales jumped once those scores starting to come out.
Yep.
Just makes I don't know if that data is out there. It makes me wonder how many people pre-ordered before it, and then how many people saw those scores and were like, "Oh, yes, this is good enough for me to pre-order."
Yeah, I wonder if it's like possible to measure that on SteamDB. Maybe that's possible. But I think we would both probably guess that it did jump significantly. Like when you get a Game of the Year contender level of reviews, people are going to take notice. And it just, we always talk on this show how every purchasing decision is a conversation with yourself, and you try to like convince yourself to do something. Once you get that much momentum in the favor of, hey, this might be worth that money easily, it becomes that much easier to actually pull the trigger on buying the thing. So, yeah, and now it's like, okay, wide release. We're gonna hear everybody talking about it here pretty soon, and see kind of what the what the initial reaction is, if there's any backlash. That's always a fun thing to do with these games as well. But I imagine most people are going to be pretty happy with this, as even the people in my circles who were like, early on, I don't know if it clicked with me. Many people did click with them right away. So I don't know if it clicked with me. Like now it has after 30 hours. So
only took 30 hours.
Only takes 30 hours.
Yeah.
Come on. Who doesn't have that much time? All right. Next up, two Disco Elysium spin-off studios have been announced on the same day. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. Two new studios co-founded by former Disco Elysium developers have been announced on the same day. On Friday morning, around 12, former Zaum staff announced the creation of Longdew Games, a studio said to be working on a spiritual successor to the acclaimed RPG. At the same time, another UK-based studio, Dark Math Games, was announced with around 20 former Disco Elysium staff said to be on board creating their own detective RPG named XXX Night Shift. Longdew Games will also include developers who previously worked at Rockstar, Bungie, and Brave at Night, and says it aims to create games that resonate emotionally and intellectually, and that it's here to build a reputation of consistently delivering quality with a focus on depth and narrative integrity. Its first game is being billed as a spiritual successor to Disco Elysium, and Longdew says it explores the delicate interplay between the conscious and subconscious, the seen and the unseen. The game is described as a psychogeographic RPG with a unique mechanic where every decision reshapes both the world and the characters that inhabit it. Meanwhile, Dark Math's XXX Night Shift claims to deliver a deep single-player role-playing experience with many tools and layers of gameplay, plus a unique companion dynamic, which adds more fun and offers different paths to solve cases. The innovative and powerful role-playing systems respect your time and trust your intelligence with seismic choices, it says. It's up to you to decide how your story unfolds and how it ends. So this is from the aftermath, the sort of blast radius of what happened with Zaum, which I don't know if that's how you say it. That's how I'm going to say it for now. Where that there was a lot of controversy at that studio. So the ownership kind of tried to take things over, tried to make a sequel, maybe tried to push out some of the people who were key to making the game. It sounds like there was some drama involved with the people making the game, but there was a lot of people that had nothing to do with either side of these things. Sounds like a lot of them have left to go do these kinds of games elsewhere. And I welcome that. I think that it would be awesome to see more games of that style, because there's not a lot of Disco Elysiums out there. And even as someone who prefers the dewy games over the talky games, I have really appreciated Disco Elysium. It's a game I'm like slowly playing over time. I played some this summer. I was kept like my game going, and then fell off because some other games came out. But it's right there on my Steam Deck, waiting for me to get back into it, and I'm looking forward to doing exactly that. I think this is exciting. How about you?
I think it's cool. So if I recall, didn't it come out that the creative director was kind of a asshole to work with? Like that was part of it too. Right. There was some issues with the people responsible for the game, and definitely some issues with the ownership. Ownership stuff, right?
Yeah, and it just sounds like they were kind of pricks to each other and everybody else.
Yeah, it's like I'm excited about it because I'm one of the very few people who did not like Disco Elysium very much. I didn't like the writing. I found it to be pretentious.
Oh,
That's just
sure.
me. If you like it, that's great.
Yeah, definitely a little pretentious, without a doubt. Yes,
Yeah, so I like it. It made me not enjoy it.
sure.
And that's cool. I know everyone loves it. I'm in the minority, but that's part of why I like this story so much is because I like the mechanics of it, and I feel like a lot of that writing that I dislike comes from. It feels like after I found out about the creator, I was like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense where that story came from. So I'm excited to see what the other team's story is because I do like the game otherwise. So
Yeah.
and that's just me. That's very personal to me. I'm sure some people will feel like that's what made them love the game so much
Yeah,
was that
what I like about it is pretentious, and then it knows it's pretentious, and that there's always more to every single thing that the game is saying that deconstructs it and criticizes that pretentious position as well. It is fully self-aware, and it's its own best critic in a lot of ways. So I appreciated that side of things.
yeah, and that's cool. So like I'm not faulting anybody for liking it. It just for me, I guess it rubbed me the wrong way.
Sure,
But
that can happen.
that's just
I mean, I definitely
yeah.
know. I know Dan Reicher. Whenever he was watching people play, would have a similar reaction of like, "Oh my god, who cares about any of this? This is so up its own ass." And you kind of, what can you do if you have that reaction?
Yeah. So and I finished the game. I fully played it. I fully
Hmm.
finished it. But hey, I think anytime more people have a chance to be creative and get spotlight for it, that's also cool. So I'm glad that they're getting away, they're getting some attention, and especially it sounds like an extremely toxic workplace from all ends between the
Yes.
ownership, between the creative director, all that. I'm glad. I'm glad they spun off and they're doing their own thing. So that's great.
Yep.
Super good for them.
Yeah, and you're right. I think there's a chance to reset the vibes of the game and come in with a different angle. Because you know, a detective game, yeah, keep it a detective game. That's fine. I think if you can change the sort of the preconceived ideas of what the characters are, you can have a completely different feeling when playing it. And I would be excited to see how that could be executed. So
I
we'll
mean, what
see.
you're describing via the quotes, what we're describing, sounds cool to me. I'm
Yep.
like, I'm in. That sounds great. So,
Yeah, it sounds
yeah.
promising. If you people weren't they making a Disco Elysium sequel at Zaum with the remaining people? Apparently that got canceled along with a bunch of other stuff. So it doesn't sound like they're doing much of anything over there. I don't know. Meanwhile, The Rise of the Golden Idol is coming out ridiculously soon. This is from Maddie Myers at Polygon. Watch out, other video games, because there's a new Game of the Year contender in town, at least for my personal taste, that is. The Case of the Golden Idol was my favorite game of 2022. It's a short, haunting, supernatural mystery game made up of individual chapters that each felt super satisfying to solve. Its sequel, The Rise of the Golden Idol, is apparently coming out on November 12th. It's coming to a bunch of platforms, including on mobile via Netflix. The announcement trailer also lists PC via Steam, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. You have a month to catch up on the original game, which is plenty of time given that it isn't long, 6 to 8 hours, depending on how fast you are at solving mysteries. It is, however, a game you will think about forever afterward and wish you could scrub from your memory and play again because it's so creepy and cool. Yeah, and then they go on to describe how the game works, which is like, you know, it's a scenes are set up. There's a bunch of information in these scenes that they're like still scenes, static scenes, and you need to use logic to piece together the words that go into certain sentences to explain who did the crime, why, and where, that sort of thing. And it is a really, really excellent game. It's one of these games I put in the genre, Dave, of you mostly play in your head instead of the mechanics existing within the code of the game. And I love that sort of thing. And this is maybe the best example of that. You know, kind of up there with the what's the ship game where you have the time stuff.
Oh, that is a great game.
Oberden, yes.
Yeah, Oberden. Yeah. This is also a great game. I'm glad.
Oh, yeah.
When I saw that you put this in the story, I was like, kind of figured. I was going to ask if you played it, and then I realized to talk about Golden Idol, you must have played it because it's not. I don't think it's a very big title, but it is excellent too. So I agree with you. Game is fantastic.
It rules.
I'm super excited. There's a new one, and I hope more people play it. I don't know if the original one sold very well. I guess it sold enough to make a sequel, but
I think it found a pretty big audience because it was one of those word of mouth games that really did. It was like on every podcast was talking about it. That sort of game.
yeah, I wanted to play it when I first saw it, but I'm more of I'm not a big PC guy, so I waited, and when it finally came to Switch, that's when I got it. Which it's kind of buggy on the Switch.
Right.
So actually, there's a game.
It was a little bit buggy
for
me on Steam Deck too. So that's just what the game was. Yeah.
I haven't been able to play the last scenario because it bugged out on me. But
yeah,
otherwise,
it happened to me for a while.
Oh, did it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can only use one word. That's not helpful.
No,
but
not at all.
It is such a good game, and you described it the perfect way. It's one of the few games that really makes you feel like a detective.
Mm-hmm.
Obra Dinn does that, as you mentioned. Like there's detective games like what we were just talking about with Disco Elysium and what it sounds like they want to make, where it's more a story-based detective game. An Ace Attorney, you do a bit of detective work, but it's really more just like a point and click type of thing. This is a game that really makes you feel clever when you figure it out. It really makes you feel like you are doing the legwork, and I appreciate it for doing that because I feel like detective is a hard genre to pull off, and it does. And it has a fun supernatural story. Every scenario that you go into, as they're all laid out scenarios, they all feel unique and interesting. And when you click on the picture, it's also just exciting to be like, what's the next scenario going to be? What happened? It really draws you in. So super exciting.
Yep. I'm looking forward to this November 12th. I didn't finish the DLC for Case of the Golden Idol, so I'm going to do that while I wait for November 12th to come along and the release of Rise of the Golden Idol. All right, let's get through these last handful of stories here. 3 more Tomb Raider games are getting remasters in 2025, including one of the most divisive ones. This is from Ethan Gotch at Kotaku. Following a year after the Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remastered collection, 3 additional Lara Croft games are getting updated with visual upgrades and new features. Tomb Raider 4 through 6 remastered arrives in February 2025 for $30. The collection consists of 1999's Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation for the original PlayStation, 2000's Tomb Raider Chronicles, and 2003's Tomb Raider: The Angel of Darkness for the PS2. The remastered versions will be on PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC, and include a range of improvements like the ability to toggle between classic and modern graphics on the fly, the option of modern controls or the original tank style movement, photo mode with poses, quality of life features like boss health bars, trophies, and achievements on the relevant platforms. The Tomb Raider games, I've never loved the Tomb Raider games, Dave. I thought the originals were interesting, like the very originals. Definitely by the time 4, 5, and 6 were coming out, I had lost interest. And then I do remember Angel of Darkness being kind of a problem. In fact, they have a quote here from some schmo called Greg Kasavin, who was writing for a website, who said, the actual gameplay of Tomb Raider, The Angel of Darkness often isn't fun at all, but instead can be frustrating, difficult, and tedious. Apparently that game also had a lot of like missing content and things like that. So, hey, that doesn't mean it shouldn't be remastered. Still an interesting thing to do. And maybe there's a chance they could like make stuff better when they have an opportunity like this. But I don't know. How do you feel about Tomb Raider? You think 4, 5, 6 are going to be worth going through?
Well, Grubb, you are in good company. I was never a big fan of Tomb Raider either. I rented the first one. It just never clicked with me, so I never played any of the other ones until the reimagining one came out, which I loved. I loved the Uncharted Tomb Raider, but I think the thing I think is the best though about this remaster, even though I'm not a big Tomb Raider guy, is I think it's cool they're letting you choose between tank controls or not. Because I think that's fun to be able to choose the original way it was intended to be played.
Oh, yeah, the tank controls are fun still, yeah.
I don't think there's bad. I think they get a bad rep. I don't think they're as bad as people make them out to be.
Yep.
So, especially for survival horror. I tried playing the Resident Evil remake without tank controls, and I was like, this just does not work.
No, yeah, because with the static cameras
and everything.
No, you want tank controls. So that's the reason they did tank controls for those games.
Yeah, I mean, Tomb Raider's a little different because it's a platform game.
Yeah, but it's a platform game with it's tile based, so you're moving one tile at a time when you press forward. So it still makes sense to me in some ways.
It's like the Croc remake is also maintaining their tank controls, which is cool. So I just never, I don't know, never clicked with me. But I'm glad that Tomb Raider fans are getting it. The theme song's great.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I'm happy to hear remaster the thing song.
Yep. Steam Deck is launching in Australia this November. Let's see here. There's a price here. The Verge reported the original LCD model with the 256 gigabytes of storage will set consumers back 649 Australian dollars, which is equivalent to about 437 American. Valve will also release the Steam Deck's OLED model in 2 versions. For 512 gigabytes, you'll be paying $900 Australian, and the 1 terabyte option will go for $1,050 Australian. That's equivalent to about $706 Australian. Yes. So then that's equivalent to about $706 American, which is about how much that cost. I think it's maybe a little bit more expensive. I think it's maybe $650 here in the United States. So the exact release date of the device in the country has not been shared at this time. But November, sometime in November. So congratulations, Australia. You're finally getting it after the original shipped in February of 2022. So
I didn't know they didn't have it yet.
Yep, they've been, because the only place you could buy it is Steam, right? The only place you can get a Steam Deck is through Steam itself, and it's not like there's retailers in Australia importing them. And Valve's just like, we're not going to be shipping them to Australia yet. Just hang tight, and finally they are going to get it.
Every few months, I want a Steam Deck because I love indie games. All the best indie games come to Steam before anywhere else, and then I never get it just because the $450 price tag. I'm like, it's kind of steep though.
Yeah, some of those
it sounds like it's
good.
Worth it. That's why I play so many. That's why I play so many indie games on Switch, just because I love playing handheld like that. And I know I would play the hell out of a Steam Deck if I got it. So
yeah.
Hey, I'm glad for Australia though. Good for them.
Yeah, I'm with Dan Fiasco in chat. Says bury me with my OLED Steam Deck. That's I love that thing. Just use it all the time, constantly. Every time I look at it, makes me happy. It's a great way to play games. And the battery life is really good on it, especially for indie games. I remember I turned down the TDP, the total draw power on the Steam Deck for UFO 50 down to 5 watts. And the thing's like, yeah, you can play this for 12 hours. You're good. Like, hell yeah, let's go. All right. Nintendo asks Switch Online Playtest program participants to, quote, not discuss or disclose content. This is from Liam Doolin at Nintendo Life. Basically, Nintendo said, as part of like their thing here, and as a reminder, Nintendo's running some weird test. We don't know what it is. It's a mystery. People had to sign up for it yesterday. I signed up. I got selected. A lot of people signed up, weren't selected. Apparently, it was like 10,000 people. They already closed it. But they said, come back on October 20th. We'll give you a download code for a 2.2 gigabyte app on the Nintendo Switch Online service. That you'll download separately, and then you can use it on October 21st. And they still haven't told us what it is, but they have some requests here, and it is a request. People are kind of incorrectly saying that this was an NDA. This is not what NDAs sound like, people. So let's read the quote here. We request that you do not discuss or disclose content from either the Nintendo Switch Online playtest program, test software, or website with others. If request is not the word that gets put in an NDA. What even like those soft NDAs where it's like, just by doing this you agree. They'll say you agree not to disclose under any circumstance. Blah blah blah. It's much more rigid. This is them just kind of doing a please don't. And there doesn't seem like there's any force of law. Now it is Nintendo, so maybe don't take your chances. Maybe don't risk it. At least I'm telling you not to risk it. Don't blame me if something happens with you. But hey, I just keep bringing this up, Dave, because I'm curious what people think it is.
No idea.
Yeah, it's impossible to say.
It's not like a Switch 2 thing. Otherwise, you need the console for that.
Yeah. It's a feature that could easily transfer over to the Switch 2, but no, it's something that's going to work on Switch 1 right now.
It could be. While we were talking about it, I was just thinking, like, racking my brain, what could it possibly be? But it's like trying to guess the Alarmo, right?
Yes.
It's like, who would have ever guessed that was a thing? I'm excited for you, though, that you get to find out before all of us. Yep. No clue. And I'm sure somebody's going to break it because somebody's going to want the attention. But
oh, sure. Without a doubt.
Especially if there's not a legally binding NDA.
Yeah.
But man, that's like, maybe it's a fitness app. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like if it's an app on your phone, man, I don't know.
But it's not an app. No, it's an app you download on the Switch. It's
right. It's not a fit. I mean, God,
So
I
it's
have
2.2
no
gigabytes,
clue.
and they do some of the other tidbits where they request that you use it in TV mode. They're like, you should use it in TV mode with a wired connection. So people are thinking maybe it's a cloud streaming thing. And some of the rumors have been GameCube cloud streaming GameCube games. Yeah, maybe. I wouldn't
Why would
I
that
would be
matter
shocked.
why would that matter for the TV part though? For
Well,
GameCube,
because that's when you can have it wired. You can't have it wired in handheld. Excuse me, in handheld mode.
So
At least
what?
not easily. Well, I mean, they want like have it wired so you have the best connection possible, I guess. I mean, I don't know. You're right. So what might actually be the relevant thing here? None of that might matter for what this thing ends up being, which could be more disappointing than anything we're imagining. So,
yeah.
yep.
It's just like Mario saying "It's a me" every so often on your.
Right. It's an AI.
Which
It's an
you don't
AI
know when.
Mario. They got the Milo tech from Microsoft, and now it's Mario instead.
I wish I could have some more fun guesses for you, but I've got no clue.
I mean, no, but you're right though, because it is exactly like trying to guess Alarmo. It's like who could possibly think what Nintendo's going to do next, and why are they keeping it such a mystery? I guess there's a chance that they announce what this is between now and when the test happens, so that they can control the messaging. But then why?
They're just masters of marketing. We're talking about it.
Yeah.
So,
but then why keep it a secret? I don't know why ask people to keep it a secret.
because then everyone's gonna want to know what's the secret. What is it?
Yeah, you're okay. That's actually not a bad point. But I always think like, is Nintendo that clever? I just think they just sort of stumble into these things sometimes. So who knows? All right, poll question. I got the results from yesterday's poll right here. I have to vote. So it was Nintendo's testing a mystery Switch Online feature. What is it? The options were remote play together, social platform, achievements, cloud streaming, family library sharing. We probably should have put who knows, something else, but I'll just click on cloud streaming, and 27% also said cloud streaming, but that was not number one. Number one was achievements at 30%.
Why 2.2 gigabytes for achievements?
Yep. And a separate app for that. You're right. I fully agree. I think that is people saying that's what they want, which you guys got to get over that. 17% say it's a social platform. 15% say it's remote play together, like that thing where you can have a game that only has local remote play or local play. You can just have your friend come in over the cloud with a direct connection to your console. Sure, maybe. And then 10% say it's a family library sharing system, which is maybe the thing I want the most. That's what I want.
Yeah, but they would have selected people differently for that.
Yeah, this random 10,000 of people like that you don't know what it is. You're all just hopping in there. You're right. It's definitely not family remote. Why would you need a 2.2 gigabyte app for that as well?
Right. Yeah, that too.
Yep.
I mean, cloud streaming does seem like the most likely. I agree with you on that.
Based on the information we have, yeah.
Right, based on the information, but I mean, again, it could be an Alarmo. So
it could be an Alarmo. All right, we have a new poll question coming out here in a second. Before we do that, though, Dave Klein, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet, what you have going on, all that good stuff?
Sure. I work for GameSpot as a senior producer. Starting a new show with Giant Bomb next week, I think, or in 2 weeks, which I guess we'll reveal when we do it. And I'm excited about that. New show coming out for GameSpot called Speed Break, which is about how speedrunners break games in order to get their high scores that I'm working on as well. YouTube channel I haven't posted content on in 2 years called Dave Control. And I'm working on a game in my free time. I've been working on it for 2 years. Hopefully I can announce it in a year and it'll be done in 5 years.
Yeah, like that, the indie game cycle. Hell yeah, let's go. Dave, thank you for doing all this. New poll question. Do you think the Splinter Cell remake ever comes out? Yes or no? What do you think? You think we get a Splinter Cell remake?
Am I answering too?
Yeah, just what do you think in this moment? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I think so too, but we'll see what people say. We'll get results for this and discuss it on Game Mess Mornings here on Giant Bomb on Monday. Speaking of Giant Bomb, today there's still more stuff happening. In fact, I need to wrap this show up because they need to start BCR right now to talk about Metaphor ReFantazio. Jan, for his birthday, apparently put together an all-star crew to talk about it. People who have beaten the game, people who are pretty deep into it, and then also Sean, who I think is like 25 hours into it, which is not, it's still respectable, but it's like, man, when it comes to this game, he might get spoiled. So here,
I was about to say, he can get heavily spoiled.
He might, yeah. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see how that works out for him. But they're going to have a conversation. If you're worried about spoilers, obviously the game just came out. I think they'll probably start with with no spoilers, and then that stuff would be safe at the end. I don't know how they're doing it. You should just listen to the show. And then also, we are doing a Blight Club today. Blight Club is back. New season of Blight Club.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to see what Lucy has to play.
Lucy James is our victim this time, and you.
I didn't just break that, did I? People knew that. No, she said shit.
People have known that what they don't know is what she's playing. She doesn't know what she's playing, and she's gonna find out after she gets dressed up in her outfit for the show, which you're not gonna want to miss. It's gonna be a good time. All right, let's see here. Anything else that we should talk about? Yeah, next week will be fun. I think we're off next Monday, though, everybody. I think it's Indigenous Peoples Day. I think so. But I'm not good at remembering that sort of thing, so maybe that's wrong.
It is Indigenous Peoples Day. I have no idea what Giant Bomb schedule is, though.
Yes, I think we're off next Monday. All right, with all that said, Dave Klein, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me on. It was a blast.
Of course.
As always.
Absolutely. We'll make it happen more often. Thank you all for watching and listening. You are the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.